John Brewster from the Angels, 50 Not Out. What a great title.
It's yeah. I mean, it's obviously a reference to cricket, but the thing is, it's very exciting for us to be 50 years old, and what you tend to do is just a bit of reminiscing. I think we'll do more of that as we go out on the road, and which we're about to do. But I think back to the early days when we first started the band in Adelaide and met AC/DC in 1975. They saw something in us. They went back to Sydney and told Vanda and Young about us. All of this stuff you probably know about, but it's great to look back on all of that. And Doc being so tall, hated being in the car. So one time he rode in the boot. We kept knocking on the back of the boot to make sure he was still alive, because we thought he might be getting gassed with carbon monoxide. But he was a strange man like that. The thing is, when the band hit the big time in 78 with Coming Down on Me, to Take a Long Line, it was particularly Take a Long Line, which Rick wrote, and everything changed for us. We did the Meatloaf tour, we did David Bowie that year, by which time I think the album was quadruple platinum. In the old days we talked about platinum albums.
Yeah.
And Doc found a character. He did filmmaking and drama like I did at Flinders University, and Doc sort of found this wonderful kind of demented aristocrat kind of look and feel to the whole show. He would dishevel through the performance. And combination of the songs we were writing and Doc's sort of Bertolt Brecht expressionism kind of influence made for something pretty special. And then, of course, Rick became like a statue, ripping it up on the guitar. People had come along to see this guy just ripping it up. How can this guy not move? When you look at Rick back in those days, there's an intensity to his standing still that I defy anyone to copy that.
Yeah, it's almost the opposite of Angus.
Well, we were in the same record company. I think you might have hit on something there. But Rick wasn't a natural rock and roll, leap about the stage performer. Even when he was, he still is a terrific pianist, but when he was really kicking some huge goals with classical piano, it's the same sort of thing. He didn't do all the facial expressions that a lot of these people do. And Dad would walk past the piano and say, "Now listen, boys, make sure you make the melody sing." And we've always had that in our minds when we come up with a song. I think that's a lot to do with Rick's wonderful solos. And this new album is, I've got to pay tribute to my brother, because it's amazing. His playing on this album is amazing. The song he wrote, Heart to Heart, which is not a typical Angel song. If you think there is a typical Angel song,
that's a real ballad.
Yeah. And I think there was some question whether it should go on the album because it's so different. And we just said, of course it should. This is what you've done. This is you. This is, and this is your band. So that's going on. And I just think it's sensational. He also wrote Blue Winter, which I think is an amazing song. It's a wonderful expose of my brother's wonderful ability to play lead guitar. And I did my rhythm guitar too. I kind of came in at the tail end of it because I went in the studio and kind of did all their things while I was getting over my heart problem. I did all my guitar parts in hotel rooms because I had to. We had to get this album done. We wanted to make sure we released this album when we go on the road. 50 not out and no album's not a good idea.
Well, let's start talking about songs from this album, 99, the title track, which hasn't been written by you. It hasn't been written by Rick. This is a Nick and Sam song. So it's really bringing in the new guard, isn't it?
I know, and I just think that's fantastic. I just think the way that the young guys, and of course my son Tom is now playing, on drums, and just the way that those guys have stepped up and delivered songs like that. I think it's a great song, and so it was an easy decision to put that out as our first single.
But not only the first single, but the title track, and it's got the signature sound of the band too. I would imagine that song is going to slide straight into the set list and fit perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is. We'll be doing that song every night on this tour that we're doing. Of course, My Sex are with us as well, which is exciting for us because we love them. And they've, you talk about songs, that's what they have. They've got great songs. And, the Angels is all about repertoire as well, but it's more than that, and I think this album shows that the band isn't just resting on laurels from the past. It's moving on with new music.
It's probably the most diverse album I've ever heard from the Angels. There are the signature sounding songs, Hue and Cry, Heartbeats, for instance. But as you say, with the ballads, Heart to Heart, that diversity on this record probably makes it the most sparse Angels album ever.
I think that's a really fair comment, and I think it's one of the strengths of the record that, things like Little Lies, for example. I think that's a wonderful song. That happened because my son Harry was here at my house, and we were about to go to the studio. Harry wasn't going to be playing in the studio. He'd just here playing a visit because he lives in Sydney and I'm in South Australia. And just before we left, we had breakfast and Harry said, "Oh, Dad, can I just play you something?" And I said, "Sure." And he played me that. I just said, "Hey, we're going straight to the studio."
Wow.
And record it. And that's what we did. And then Rick added some stuff to it. And then, of course, Nick took it away. Nick did a vocal in my hotel room at the Hilton Hotel in Adelaide. He eventually replaced it, but we could have used that vocal. It was just, these days with the technology that we have, you just hand him a microphone and had a little H4 or something recorder, gave him a mix, and he sang it. He's great like that.
I love how Nick has just fitted in as the new lead singer with ease. But there are 4 tracks from the old EP on air with Heart to Heart we've talked about, Under the Stone, Escape, and Leaders of Men. So you have brought a bit of 2020 into 2024.
Yeah, we have, because, as far as we're concerned, those songs are new and fresh, and, we never actually released those through our record company, Bloodlines and Mushroom. We wanted, and so we just felt that, they were very underexposed and should be part of this album. Look, from my point of view, I'm excited to say that I've had less to do creatively with this album than any album I've ever been involved in. And the reason is because I was not, I was told to stay away for a while, because I was getting over that heart attack. And yeah, so, the boys went in and just knocked out these songs, and there's a lot of spontaneity. And I think those songs that you just mentioned have a strong place on the record.
Because you did set 3 albums out, Howling, Beyond Salvation, Redback Fever. How closely did you monitor what they were doing when you weren't around?
Well, I like the Howling album a lot. I liked it better than Beyond Salvation, actually. I think that's a great album. And Redback Fever, I think we can pass that one over. I don't think that was a very good record. I mean, I think
it didn't even work on the chart, did it? That didn't really deliver a hit.
No, it was. Look, I want to be careful and not try and judge the band that I wasn't in. Because I left the band for 7 years.
Yeah.
And good on them. They did some great stuff.
Well, 99's coming in 10 years after the last Angels album, and then there were two Angels albums with Dave Gleeson, with Talk the Talk and Taking It to the Streets, that came, I think, within about 16 months of each other. It was a very proactive period for the band. How proactive will you be this time round? Will there be like a follow-up to 99 within a year or two?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think there's such a wealth of songwriting talent within the band, and hopefully I'll be able to contribute a bit more than I did on the last album. I mean, I played my guitar on it, but yeah, I mean, look, Nick's a great songwriter. Sam's shown wonderful ability to come up with musical ideas. He's a fantastic guitar player. He plays bass in the Angels, but he's also a wonderful guitar player. So, you know, I can see the Angels going, you know, I dare I say it, I could see it going past Rick and me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, having two sons in the band and Nick as well, you almost have presented the structure of the band now so that the band can carry on for another 50 years. Yeah,
well, you know, and there's another one waiting in the wings too. My son Harry's amazing. He's a fantastic guitarist, and you know, comes up with great ideas too. There's Rick's son Jody, who plays just about everything, but he's mainly concentrating on sax at the moment. I'm looking forward to my friend Wilbur Wild hearing that sax solo on "Follow the Red Thread," because I think it's fantastic. But he's a wonderful player. Rick and I think that grandfather's kind of rubbed off somewhere in him.
As I always say to people, there's no original members in the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah, right. That's a very good point. There's a brand, and if the brand is represented by the right players and the right songwriters and singers and all that, then on it can go. And I mean, I think one of the things that we have proved is that our songs are so popular with people, and when we play them, we don't feel like we're playing old stuff. It feels fresh to us still today. And I think that's one of the beauties of rock and roll music as opposed to pop music where you're following fashions.
I bet John 20-something Brewster never thought that, you know, when this album came out, we'd still be talking about this band 50 years from now.
No, and that album, my God. Yeah, and I'm actually more fond of that album now than I was at the time. That's an example of a band trying to find its musical feet, and there's some good stuff on that.
Well, Am I Ever Going to See Your Face Again? The original version of Am I Ever Going to See Your Face Again is on this record.
Yeah, the original one's the best with Charlie King on the drums. So I remember George Young saying to Charlie, "Don't worry about hitting any drum fills, Charlie. Just go straight through. You know, boom, chut, boom, chut, boom, chut." And that's what he did. And there's just a magic feel in that song. You know, we've done that obviously a number of times on live albums, and we did a slower version which I don't particularly like. And but that one with Charlie, you know. It's great. It's great that Charlie's part of our history as well. He was fantastic. You know, he and I used to drive the truck. Well, the truck was a van when we had all our amps and PA and everything behind our heads. Nothing to. If we'd hit anything, we would have been decapitated. But we used to drive that thing everywhere and we'd pull over in a paddock and create a bonfire and get our sleeping bags out because we couldn't drive anymore. We were too tired, and we'd have a few hours sleep and then move on. That's how we did it in those days. It was just quite ridiculous, actually. You wouldn't do it today, and the roads were worse then. I mean, you know, they're a lot better now.
But it's interesting, isn't it, when you listen to this record, Angels is more of a pop band on this record and became the rock band on this record.
Yeah.
When you go back to early AC/DC, that first version that they did of Can I Sit Next to You, Girl, with Dave Evans on vocals, the actual 7-inch that was the hit single in Sydney, was a pop song.
Yeah, it was. You know, I mean, I guess they were trying to find their musical feet as well. I mean, I remember our first band, the Windchime Jug and String Band, we actually supported AC/DC at the Paraka Hotel in Adelaide. And I think the only two out of AC/DC that went on with AC/DC were Angus and Malcolm. And I remember looking at them and just thinking that band's heading somewhere. As soon as they got Bon in there. And of course Phil Rudd and Mark Evans and everything. But what a great band! Like those three shows that we did with them, Port Pirie, Whyalla, and Port Augusta in 1974, they blew our minds. And I'm just so excited to be able to say that we spent so many fantastic times with them in the studio, swapping instruments, having jam sessions, going to George Young's place for a barbecue, and ending me up in his music room. And we were playing Chuck Berry songs and stuff, and Angus would still finish up on the floor spinning around. He did that. We saw them record Let There Be Rock, which I think is one of my, I get goosebumps when I tell you about it. And Angus finished up spinning around on the floor on that one.
In the studio?
In the studio. And his headphones went flying off. And because they were all playing in one room, that's what we did then. We played in one room, and, the amount of spill of instruments into other instruments and drums and stuff was just amazing. However, it all worked.
Yeah.
You could not, redo any parts because it all, you just, so when you had what we call a take, every instrument had to be keeper. And we saw Let There Be Rock go down, and a great rock and roll moment. Angus finishes up spinning around on the floor, his headphones fly off his head, and his amp on the very last hit blew up. Boom! Smoke came out of it. I thought, that's rock and roll. And the song's Let There Be Rock, wow.
Yeah, the good old days. Well, the album's called 99. I hope 99 is a reference to how long you're going to be staying with this band until you're 99.
Oh, yeah. I think so, yeah. I think, when I'm 99, I'll still be rocking.
But 14 albums in. And to quote an ancient philosopher, I'm proud of everything this band has done, and we have what I call a benchmark album, particularly Face to Face, No Exit, and Darkroom. To me, this is a benchmark album. Could you imagine somebody hundreds of years ago said that? What a wise old
man. Probably 99 years ago. Yeah, I meant that comment. I just think, it's sometimes something comes out of the blue like that, and I just think this is a really special record. Obviously, when you release a record and you do interviews like I'm doing at the moment, you do tend to talk up albums. But I really mean what I say with this one. I think it's really great. But, we're celebrating 50 years of the band too. So, the past is a big deal, a big part of what we're celebrating. As I think I said maybe in an interview, that I'm proud of every member this band has had. I think there's been lineups that have been better than other lineups, but I don't want to get into that. I just think anyone that ever became part of the Angels has certainly has my affection and respect.
And you have to reach a certain standard to get into this band in the first place, and that's a pretty high benchmark.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's fun. It really is fun to continue the Angels. It's been a great career. I can actually say to people now, I don't have to get a real job. I think maybe in retrospect, it has
been a real job, hasn't it, for the last 50 years?
That's true, yeah. And people say, "Oh, you've never worked." And I go, "Yeah, you try doing what I did."
Hey, you should turn around to the band and apply for long service leave.
Yeah, I wouldn't get it because Rick would have to approve, and he's actually longer service. At least I left the band for a while. He's actually the only guy that's been there the whole time.
All right. Good to see you, John.
Yeah, great to see you too, Paul.